Hey guys, so today I wanted to talk about apartment hunting as a musician. That's something that I've had to do recently because I'm moving in June, and I thought about it a lot differently than when I was first trying to find this place. And I wanted to talk about that. So the first thing was definitely trying to find the quietest apartment in terms of outside sound, as well as insulation and figuring out how many neighbors I was going to have to talk to and who were going to be affected by my playing. In this place, we have 5 neighbors, 3 on the floor and 1 up and down. And unfortunately, our floors are very thin, which means that one, we can hear everything that's happening above us, and two, the people below us can hear everything that's happening. And they weren't super happy about us being musicians. We did go to them and we did work out everything, which is something that you should always do, but it created a lot of problems for us and practicing. So while I don't necessarily know that my new place is going to be any better, it has thicker floors, thicker walls, and only 3 people, one on one side and up and down, that have to deal with me. And since I practice during the day, most people are pretty amenable to it. That's a big thing, is go to your neighbors before there's a problem. When you first move in, give them your number, tell them what the deal is, give them your ideal schedule, see if that's okay, adjust as needed, and really do work with your neighbors to create an acceptable space for you. Because obviously you have to practice. There is actually legal precedent to prove that musicians do have the right to practice in their own homes. It's a New York lawsuit that I had to look into because we were having problems. But it does require that the musician themselves has made a concerted effort to arrange appropriate timings and an arrangement with the people around them. Along with neighbors, you also have their pets. And while dogs are great, they bark. And that is a sound that you have to deal with. For someone like me who records videos and records audio almost 7 days a week at this point, I have a lot of problems working around the dogs. They're actually barking right now if you can hear them. I also live very close to the elevator, and I have neighbors who slam their doors. That last one I can't do anything about, but there's always sound. I also live in downtown Chicago. There are sirens, there are car horns, there's sound. And while some of it's out of my control, what I can control is whether there are dogs in the building. I was really interested, since I don't have a dog myself, in a non-pet or no dog building, just because that limits one factor. I also did end up getting an apartment that's a good ways away from the elevator, so I don't hear the doors closing all the time, though certain buildings don't have that set up, my current one included. Because our apartment windows back a busy street, we get a lot more of the sirens and that kind of sound than we would if we were closer to the ground or facing a different direction. So finding a smaller building, or a taller one actually, that didn't face a busy street was something that I was interested in, something that was in a quieter neighborhood, just limiting the amount of sound, because I basically run a recording studio out of my apartment. And while that's not something that everyone's going to be doing, it is something that you have to think about, is you have to record for auditions or for summer festivals or whatever it is. You can't have dogs barking in the background. They're not going to want that. The other thing for me was the setup of the apartment. Obviously, I wanted to find a nice space where I could film and I could record, and that's not something that you're necessarily going to have to think about because you don't have my life. But I also wanted to have like a separate music space. And while I can't really afford a 2-bedroom where I can put a recording studio in one bedroom and my own bedroom in the other, I did look for a setup where the recording area could be separated from where I live my life. And that's something that was not possible here, and it's something that I think has added stress to my life, that I see the music all the time, and I don't have an opportunity to really separate myself from that. So in this new place, there is an area that can be kind of not cordoned off, but at least created as a music space. I have my own room, and then there's still space to have kind of a living area. And that was big for me just because I could feel that this apartment wasn't suiting my mental needs. And that's a big thing. And some of you might find it completely okay to have your music and your living space in the same place. For me, that wasn't the case, and I found that out through this place. And that's something that you might unfortunately discover through experience, but it's also something that you should think about before you start looking at places. Is, do you think you can handle your music being basically on top of you? And the last thing is, think about who is showing you the apartment. If it's the owner or like a leasing agent for the management company, be very careful about how you speak about yourself. Unfortunately, a lot of them are going to see you as a liability or a problem if you mention that you're a musician, because they're thinking about noise complaints, angry neighbors, and just problems that they're going to have to deal with. Well, yes, you obviously are going to arrange things with your neighbors and you're going to try as much as possible to not be a problem. They see you as your problems, and it makes it harder for them to see you as a viable candidate. If, like in Chicago, you have these apartment brokers that are third parties that are really just interested in finding you the best place possible and don't really care about the landlords in terms of what they have to deal with after they place you, then it's great to talk about being a musician, because then they can find a space that suits your needs. They can find a place that's in a building that doesn't have a lot of background noise. They can find no pets. They can tell you about the buildings and how they were built, because they're interested in finding you a place that suits you, because then they get their commission. And yes, it does seem like it's a very little difference between a broker and the leasing agent, but the broker isn't responsible to the leasing company or the management company or the landlord. They're responsible to their own company, and that makes a world of difference. I have had a lot of luck through these brokers, and I think they're great, especially since they don't charge extra fees, and I'm not a walking ad, I promise. I just really appreciated the service that they provided me, and that's something to think about. It is very hard to find apartments on your own, especially in a city, and these people can help, and they won't see you as a problem child. So, those are kind of the things that I had to think about when I was finding my new place. I am amused at how much noise has happened in this entire video, because that's basically the whole point. If you guys have any questions or any video ideas, please let me know. If you like this video, please give it a like. If you're new here, subscribe. If you want to support me more, check out my Patreon, and I will see you guys on Thursday.